Today is September 24th. It's 11:58 a.m. and we're at the Illinois State Library. And I'm talking to George Greene, a veteran of the Korean War. Is that right, George?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me just start by asking you what your story is from the war, like in a nutshell. Can you give me a short?
Well, it came to Springfield and worked for the Secretary of State, and the National Guard was understaffed, and they didn't have enough people to fill the unit. And of course, I had been turned down on account of my eyesight, and they said, well, I could get in if I would. They'd place me in something that I didn't have to, use my eyesight so much. And of course, I went to mechanic school.
Okay.
And I joined the National Guard, and we went to Bergstrom Air Force Base in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And I can't remember exactly what time that was. I think it was in the fall.
Okay.
And from there, they sent me to school in Wichita Falls, Texas, to A&E Mechanic School.
Okay. And what branch of service was that?
The Air Force.
The Air Force? Okay.
Yes.
What was your rank when you got out?
Airman First Class.
Okay.
And it was right when the Air Force was leaving the Army, and they were, we was going from brown to blue, and,
okay.
And they was having trouble getting enough uniforms for everybody, at that time. Of course, and our bedding and all was brown to begin with, and then they went to blue,
Okay, what year was that?
In 51, I think.
Okay. All right, I forgot to state my name, the interviewer. My name is Karen Fitzgerald. Okay. Now you started out in Texas, you said.
In Austin, Texas is where they first sent us from airport out here.
Okay, was that for school?
No.
Or is there a base there?
No, we went to Texas, and then of course from there they assigned you what you was going to do.
Oh, okay.
Whether you went to radio school or mechanic school.
Okay.
And of course they put me in the mechanic part of it, and I went to Wichita Falls, Texas.
Wichita
Shepherd
Falls.
Air Force Base.
Okay. And how long were you there?
I was there 6 months.
Okay. And then
went to George Air Force Base in California, Victorville, California.
Okay. And what did you do there?
Was a line mechanic.
Okay.
On the ready line.
Okay.
And the pilot of the plane that I was working on was John Stell, the governor of Illinois' son. He got to be governor after Horner died.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting.
So I knew his son real well.
Oh, okay. And then did you go to the war from there?
Well, no. That was where the war ended, and then they discharged us all.
Okay, so you were
I came
working on planes and boats, ships for the war.
Well, on aircraft.
On the aircraft. Okay.
Fighter. It was a fighter outfit.
I see. How long were you there in California? How many?
Oh, it was about a year and a half.
Okay. Did you become immersed in the culture there?
Beg your pardon?
Did you become immersed in the culture there in California where you were stationed?
No.
No. You mainly stayed on base and.
I was, I did rent a house. I got married while I was there,
Mhm.
and we lived off base.
Okay.
Wasn't mom born on the base?
Yeah, and her mother was born in California.
So was she working there when you met her?
No. I
base?
was going with her when we was here, and she was working over here in Springfield, and that's how I got acquainted with her. I was driving back and forth,
Oh,
and
okay.
and
So
I
she lived here.
well,
Oh.
no, she was from over by home too, the same place that I was, but I hauled 3 or 4 people over here. There was 1 or 2 that worked for the Secretary of State, and she worked for some lawyers over here and lived with her sister.
See, Grandpa's from Rushville and my grandma's from over there in Mount Sterling.
Okay.
So they're from the same area, but he met her here in Springfield for the Secretary of State.
Leave.
Yeah, and she worked for the Department of Agriculture. Isn't that right?
What?
Grandma worked for the Department of Agriculture? For the
Not
state?
then, she didn't. She worked for some lawyers up here in the is it Adams Building or something like that? About 6th and Adams. What's it?
Yeah, I'm not
it's
sure.
the tallest.
Could be.
It was at that time was the tallest building.
Oh, okay.
And of course, then when her father passed away, well, she just came out there and we got married. Was going to get married anyway, so.
Mhm. Okay. And she just happened to have been born?
My grandmother.
Oh, your grandmother.
My mom, excuse me, his wife.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm not explaining this right. My grandmother, Betty, had my mom, Gail, out there on the Air Force Base.
Oh,
So
I
my
see.
mom
Okay,
was
I get
born
it.
out there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, now I
Okay.
understand.
I
All right.
apologize for that.
Yeah.
But they went and visited. I mean, my mom had never seen it, and they had gone out there on vacation one time. Just wasn't it?
Yeah.
In California, you guys went and.
Well, after my wife passed away, my daughter said, "Well, you're the last hope of me ever seeing where I was born." So we went on vacation. About a year afterwards, and went to Las Vegas and rented a car and went down to George,
Okay.
and went through the base where I was stationed.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And of course, I guess it's changed. It's changed a lot, you know. I don't think it's even an Air Force base now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they
closed
train
down.
pilots there and things, but it's on the desert.
Uh-huh. Okay. So your job, what exactly were you working on? Was it a part of the fighter plane, or was it
Well, it was
all parts of the
it's a
fighter plane?
P-51.
B-51?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what they had at that time. And at that time, they went to the T-33s. That's a trainer jet.
Okay.
And I think they've got a replica of each one of them out at the entrance to the airport now.
Oh, really?
Of 51s and that.
All right. Did you hear about people using them in the war? And did you hear when you were stationed there back then, working on the fighter planes? Did you hear about people using them in the war, in the Korean War?
No, not too much. No, I never heard that much about it.
Okay. What did they use in the Korean War? Was it B-51s?
Well, P-51s are more of an escort for the other planes, you know, the bombers and that.
Okay. Was it B-51 or P-51?
P-51.
Okay, I thought it was B-51.
Yeah, P-51. Pursue.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. P for pursue. Oops, okay.
Of course, I never got into any real action, you know. It was just,
Okay.
it was over before, you know, well, they moved the 38th parallel down, I think.
Okay. Yeah, when was the war over? The Korean War.
51, wasn't it?
Was it? Oh, okay.
52?
Yeah,
I'm not right sure.
Okay. Can you share any of your experiences about working on the fighter planes or anything that happened back then that would be of interest?
Not really. Nothing. More or less, I'd rather forget a lot of the things.
Oh, really? And you didn't enjoy it?
Well, is it a job?
Uh-huh.
You know.
Uh-huh. Were you working on electrical or
The engine.
the engine? Okay.
Well, A&E, aircraft and the engine. That's what A&E school is, aircraft and the engine.
Oh,
Work
okay.
on either one of them.
Okay. That does sound like a hard job.
Well,
A lot of physical.
every job's
strength.
hard.
Yeah.
if you,
Okay. How did you get along with the your fellow soldiers and officers?
good.
Did you feel pressure, stress, or anxiety?
No,
Okay. Did you keep a personal diary?
I didn't.
Okay. Were you able to stay in touch well with your family? Your wife was there with you.
I didn't do much letter writing, no. I received some mail until my wife, till after I got married, you know. And then, of course, she done the writing and all of that. It's just like,
That must be nice. Okay. Do you have brothers and sisters, and do you have a big family?
no, I have a son and a daughter, and my daughter was born while I was out there. And of course, I had a brother that was in the service. I wrote to him a time or two while I was there.
Where was he stationed?
Well, he was stationed, I think, in Kansas and Fort Leonard Wood, Michigan.
Okay.
And I had a cousin that was a lieutenant colonel right on the base where I was at.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just so happened that we got stationed on the same base.
Oh, that was lucky. Did you know him very well before?
Well, I knew him. We lived within 5 miles of each other when we grew up.
Oh, wow.
And of course, he was 5 or 6 years older than I was, and he went in during World War II, and I guess he got to be a lieutenant colonel, but he was just second lieutenant when he was there on the base with me.
Okay. So he must have been in for about 20 years or something, huh?
33, I think.
Okay.
He's still alive, and when he came back, he lived down by Belleville, so he could be close to Scott Air Force Base.
Oh.
You know, you get to
go to the grocery store.
Well, yeah, the grocery stores and the medical and all of that, you know.
Uh-huh.
And of course, my brother, he just passed away last year, and at where was it?
Quincy, Illinois, the Illinois Veterans Home.
Yeah,
over there.
at the Veterans Home.
Okay.
She was working there when he passed away.
Oh, wow. Okay. What was the food like on base?
The food,
Mhm.
I didn't mind it too good, too bad. You know what I mean? I didn't mind being in the service. It just, but of course I was 26 when I went in,
Uh-huh.
about 26 years old.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I wasn't no just a young kid, you know,
Right.
or anything like that. And I knew what you had to do, and I'll be right honest with you. I had it rougher before I went in the service than I did when I was there.
Oh, really?
My dad could have made General Patton look like a Sunday school teacher.
Oh, really?
But he wasn't. You know, he told you what to do, and that's what he wanted done. And I had good parents.
Mm-hmm. He's very disciplined, huh?
And was disciplined, and I thank him to this day for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
right.
important. Yeah.
In fact, I imagine if you want something there, I was about the only one that was ever disciplined for getting up too early.
In the service?
And when I was in the service.
Wow.
They had a guy that was the head of the barracks, you know, and he slept upstairs. And somebody was always getting up early, you know, before we ever got up. My dad thought the greatest invention in the world was the electric light. When
So
I
you
knew
could get up early.
That's right. When they come out with tractors with the headlights on them, I knew what was going to happen to them.
So you were farming with your dad?
Well, yeah, we had 4 boys, and 2 drove them at night and 2 drove them in the daytime.
Oh, wow. Constant work, huh?
So work was nothing to me.
So when you woke up too early, why was that a problem in the service?
You all slept in the same barracks, and they didn't want you waking the other boys up, you know. And but I was always up and had my shower and shaved and everything before the rest of them all got out, and they wondered who was making the noise. And they found out.
Did you get punished for it?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
There was rules and regulations, and that wasn't the rule.
So then you had to stay in bed and pretend you were sleeping?
Well, yeah, you know.
Huh. Okay.
I about forgot about that.
How did you entertain yourself when you were in the service?
Who told you there was entertainment? Where'd you get that idea?
Well, they asked, were there any entertainers that came to see your units?
Beg your pardon?
Were there any entertainers that came to see your units?
Well,
Like, did Frank Sinatra show up?
I saw John Wayne once, but that didn't thrill me too much. If there's ever any dignitary that I ever saw that I was impressed with, was Larry. I mean Newton. The guy that died just last week from Jacksonville.
Oh, the athlete?
Athlete, yeah.
Was it Kevin Norton?
Kenny Norton.
Kenny Norton.
The boxer that boxed with Muhammad Ali and broke his jaw.
Uh-huh.
He was a natural athlete, and he never had to train or anything. And I admired him because he was a natural athlete.
And you met him?
Well, my father, not then, not in the service, but afterwards, my father had open heart surgery here at St. John's. And my son-in-law, her other grandpa,
My dad.
my dad, brother, he went to school with him over at Jacksonville, and he said, "My God, there's Kenny Norton." And I said, "Where?" And he went over and talked to him. They went to school together over at Jacksonville. And Kenny Norton, he took me over and introduced me to him. And Kenny Norton was just a common guy. He thought that my son-in-law was introducing me instead of him. You know, he acted like you was a dignitary instead of him. He was a real nice, all-round guy.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know
Well, it was
very well, but I've heard that name before,
it was just in the paper last week and the week before. Kenny passed away at 70 years old.
Okay.
But no, I didn't. I didn't run over to California. I mean, over to Hollywood and that, you know, to see those people.
Okay. What did you do on your off hours?
Rode my motorcycle.
Okay.
Went up to Lake Arrowhead and Big Bear.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful out there.
Yeah.
What did you do when you were on leave? Like on vacation?
I did fly home at Christmas.
Okay. To Springfield.
Mm-hmm. $5 to rent a parachute. It's a little more expensive than that now.
Oh.
But it was an old airplane that I think the parachute was so you wouldn't fall through the cracks.
Oh, really?
It wasn't.
So they actually rented parachutes on flights.
Well, you had to pay. Of course, they had to repack it, you know, every time that you use put one on, you know. Well, they had to repack it and check everything. And of course, I got to fly home for $5.
Oh, on a military plane?
Okay. They brought a bunch back to Springfield.
Okay. Did you do any traveling other places while you were in the service?
No, I did go up to Death Valley while I was in California.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when I was around Oklahoma, I went through some of those mines out there. Several of us would go up there, you know. And
what kind of mines do they have?
Well, they had, I guess they had silver mines and that.
Oh, okay. Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual event?
No, one thing that I thought was unusual was while I was there, they moved well, I was one of the shortest ones there, and I was always on point when we marched, you know. And one day the guy told me, said they've got a guy in our outfit that was shorter than I was. His name was the same as mine.
You're kidding.
In the same barracks.
Wow.
And that was confusing. The only thing different was the middle initial. And he spelled his last name different. And that was confusing at mail call, of course.
Uh-huh, yeah. So you were the two shortest?
He was shorter than I was. And of course, I lost my position on point guard when we was marching. You marched everywhere when you was at Wichita Falls.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was a training command, you know. You didn't even go to the toilet unless somebody else had to.
Wow.
Yeah, you marched you to get your hair cut and everywhere.
Wow.
And you didn't go eat or nothing until.
Wasn't that stressful?
Beg your pardon?
Was it stressful?
Well, if you made it that way, you more or less made everything, you know. You just better accept it as it is.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like you said, you had it worse before, huh, with your dad?
Well, no, I wouldn't say worse. He was just disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
And he let us know that he was the boss, you know. And if you wanted to pay for expenses, well, then you could be boss.
Right. Right.
And somewhere along the line, that got lost.
Yeah, I know what you're
You
saying.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm. I think it's important that.
No, I'm not. I'm not ridiculing him or anything like that, because I had a very good family life.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if there's anything that really means anything to me, is the word family.
Mm.
I've had a good life.
Mm.
And not only with my brothers, with my own family too. I had a good wife, and I had a job that nobody else could have handled it.
What job was that?
Driving a truck, and you was away from home all the time.
Oh, that must have been hard. Yeah.
And I just retired about 7 or 8 years ago, and with 4 million miles.
Oh my God.
4 million mile, Ben. That's 41 years.
Wow, that's incredible.
And
you should get a medal for that.
Well, you probably wouldn't know of anybody else that married somebody and stayed with them that long and lived like that. And I worked for about 5 or 6 years in Peoria, and about 6 or 7 in Rockford, and Janesville, Wisconsin, Montgomery Ward, and they just moved you every now and then, you know, wherever you had a route.
Mm-hmm.
But that takes a lot of trust and
Yeah.
real good wife.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, I'm going through the list here. What were some of the pranks that you or others would pull in the service?
Beg your pardon?
Pranks? What were there any pranks that you pulled or other people pulled while you were in the service?
Oh, well.
Do you want to mention those?
Not that I want to tell. No.
Can't think of one.
Well, that getting up early wasn't a prank. I just done it.
Uh-huh.
That was just natural for me to get up like that.
What time did you get up?
Well, I'd get up about 3 o'clock.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, they didn't get the rest of them up till about 4:30.
Oh.
Of course, I was already up
Slappers.
and had my shower and everything, you know.
Hmm. Wow. So that's how early you got up on the farm, huh?
Well, not really. In fact, you was lucky to go to bed.
Before midnight?
I was probably on the night shift.
Oh.
You see, they thought Henry Ford was the one that invented working 2 shifts, you know, but my dad was doing it before Henry even thought of the Model T.
Yeah.
You know, you're old enough, you should remember hard times.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, they come out with, after the war, you know, where Roosevelt had these grocery packages, you know, and brought them around to different people. My dad wouldn't accept a thing.
Really?
He said, they don't give you nothing. Someday they'll want it back.
Oh. Well, did you guys need food or?
No, we had garden.
Mm-hmm.
There was 4 of us boys, and my mother took 2 and made girls out of us. We worked in the garden or drew dishes and that, and the other 2 worked for Dad.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's unheard of today.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I was poor boy. I just ate beefsteak and pork and that kind of stuff, you know. And the rest of the kids, we'd go to school and see them eating oranges and bananas, you know, and stuff that the government had brought out. And I thought they was, and come to find out, I was better off than they was. And 9 times out of 10, that's the way it is today. People don't know how lucky they are.
Yeah, that's right. Now, how old are you?
88.
Okay.
Looking for 89.
Yeah, what's your birth date? You were born?
February
George
22nd.
Washington was born on my birthday.
Okay.
February 22nd, 1926.
You probably have a lot in common with George.
Well, George, they named me after my George
Oh,
Washington.
did they? Okay.
George, and my grandfather was Franklin.
Franklin after Roosevelt?
Well, my dad's father was Frank Greene.
Okay. Did you feel more patriotic towards your country because of, you know, you were born on the same day as George Washington?
No, I never give it that much thought, other than I just enjoyed if it was a school day and I got a day off, you know. But no, I never give it.
Okay. And you said did you say you didn't want to go into the, or maybe that was somebody else downstairs. You were drafted, or did you?
No, I volunteered. See, I went to Chicago twice, and I think maybe Peoria once, to be drafted, and my eyes were bad
right.
then,
Okay.
and they turned me down. And when I got over here and found out that the Guard was they was understaffed and didn't have enough for a complete unit,
right. Okay.
I decided I'd try it, and several fellas that I knew told me you might be able to get in, and I did.
Okay.
And I was
So you really wanted to serve?
I volunteered.
Yeah.
I volunteered, and they took me out and said that, you know, they could find a place for me if I had bad eyes.
Okay. And how many years total were you in the service?
Oh, well, I think it was 2.
It was like 2.5.
About 2.5 years, something like
years,
that.
8 months, something like that.
And of course the war was over, you know.
It was January 22nd, 1951 to August 10th of 1953.
Okay. All right. Do you remember the day your service ended?
Yeah, I can remember guys rejoicing, you know, and glad that it was over, you know. But I can't just remember any special time. And of course, I was about the last one out because my wife was pregnant, and being born on the base, I think it cost me $5 or $6
Total?
for her being in the hospital.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
See, my wife was born on my daughter was born on the base in California.
Yeah.
And I didn't crowd it, you know, to get out because I knew that was a bargain.
Right. Okay. Did you make any close friends while you were in the service?
Absolutely. All the way down. The pilot was one of them. He had to trust you, and you had to trust him. You know, he was flying your airplane, and if you didn't have that trust, if he didn't trust what I was doing, he wasn't comfortable with flying, probably.
So you were assigned to a particular plane?
Well, a certain plane, yeah. Yeah. Of course, I should have brought some of the pictures, I guess. I've got pictures of me, you know, putting his harness on him, you know, and several things like that.
Now, would he fly missions?
Well, yeah, they mainly trained out there, you see. They was training. And, of course, some of them did go on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some of them didn't come back, I heard. You know.
Any of your pilots not come back?
Well, some of them didn't, you know.
Mm. That must have been hard.
Well, yeah, I knew 2 or 3 of them. But finally, they lost them, you know.
Mm-hmm. How long would you work with the pilot before he would move on to someplace else?
Well, I guess they came back and probably flew out of Springfield here for a long time, you know. But as soon as they got back, I got a different job. I went back to working for the Secretary of State. They'd give you your job back, you know, that you had. And then I went into construction, driving a truck.
Okay. Okay.
Paid a little better than the Secretary of State.
Oh. Do you ever go to reunions of your?
I do have coffee occasionally with one of the guys that was in the Guard with me.
Okay.
And we've kept in contact. And he stayed in the
This
20
whole
years.
time.
And then I've kept in contact with him. And one of the fellas that I went in with, although he went to radio school and I went to mechanic school, he and I was on the honor flight together out to Washington last
June
18th.
June, yeah. It was in June.
Was that? Did you discover that when you got on the flight, or did you?
No, I called him. He lives up at Fancy Prairie up here north of Springfield, about 30 miles, and I called him and told him that I was going on that, and he says, "What do you have to do to get on that?" And I said, "It's just be in the service," and I got him the paperwork and told him how to go about it. And he got on the same flight, and of all the people that there was 90 some on the plane, he was the only one that I'd. But I thought that was kind of unusual that we went in the service together and was on the honor flight together.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds like a great experience. How has your service and experiences affected your life?
Well, it didn't teach me any more respect, really, because I respected the government before that, you know. But I do understand what a lot of the guys go through. Mm-hmm. In fact, I had it really easy, I figure, in the service. I've got a fella 4 doors down from me in Southern View that's a Purple Heart and a World War II guy, you know. And when he tells me some of the things that happened to him in the service, that happened to me before I went into the service, when I was at home. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
He's telling me about what time that he had to get up and what all this and that and the other. And I said, well, that didn't impress me too much.
Yeah, that you.
That was just what I had to do before I went in the service.
Right, you got the discipline early on.
But I'm not complaining about it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or military in general?
Well, I'm disappointed in some of the things that are taking place now. I think that they could negotiate and do a little better, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm really.
You're against war then?
Well, I'm not. You know what I mean? I don't believe in what's happened, that genocide and all of that.
Mm-hmm. In Syria?
There is such a thing as knowing too much about what goes on, you know.
Hmm.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you encourage?
Personally, I'm not a cruel person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in a lot of that things.
Uh-huh.
I never was tested whether I had to pull the trigger or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Would you encourage young men and women to enlist?
Beg your pardon?
Would you encourage young men and women to enlist today?
I believe in protecting your country, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I do go to church.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm not just a kind of a person that lives to get even with somebody.
Uh-huh. Right.
I think what she's asking, Grandpa, is if you would encourage
What?
young. I think what she's asking is if you would encourage, like, after somebody graduates from high school.
Oh
if you
yes,
would
with
think
with the benefits that they could get, and if they didn't have any other way of doing it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if they yes, that's a good way to
Mm-hmm.
get. My son was in 18 years in the Guard, and he's over here at the Howlett Building now, working for the Secretary of State.
Oh, really?
And when he came home and was to re-up the next time,
Uh-huh.
well, my wife had passed away, and of course I'd had 4 strokes, and and I said, he said, "What do you think, Dad? Should I enlist?" And I said, "I might need you worse than they do."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's back over here working.
Mm.
You've got to evaluate everything.
Each individual situation.
That's right.
Yeah,
but yes, I believe in service, you know, and protecting your country, and they got benefits now, you know, college and that, and he has gone through college,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it was paid for by the government instead of me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Bill.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's a good discipline for, you know, actually, you know, it was good for him because I wasn't home. Like I told you, I was on the road driving the truck, and his mother more or less raised him. Mm-hmm. And when my daughter was born, we was just as poor as we are as I am right now, and I helped take care of my daughter. You know, when I couldn't work construction in the winter time, mm-hmm. my wife had a college education, and she worked, and I stayed home with my daughter.
Oh, that's cool.
And I've changed diapers and done all of that.
Wow.
There's nothing that I didn't figure that I couldn't do.
Well, that's unusual for your generation. That's really neat.
If I was given the chance, I figured I could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
A man can do anything if he's inclined to do it and wants to do it.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of men think it's beneath them to do that kind of thing.
No, I suppose I probably am closer to my daughter because of that.
Right.
But that don't mean that I think any more of her, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add that I haven't asked about?
No.
I think we've covered everything.
Well, I think the service would be good for a lot of kids, you know, that, well, I've been in the alleys in Chicago. I peddled freight for Montgomery Ward, you know, and it's not good. That's worse than the war.
Really?
That's right. That's worse than the war.
Why is that?
Well, I wasn't allowed to carry a gun.
Oh,
When
there
I
was
was
violence?
when I was driving the truck, and you wasn't allowed to carry a gun.
Mm.
And
Were you robbed?
no, well, I was in a restaurant once when it was being robbed, and out of ignorance, I got up and challenged the guy and prevented it being robbed. It was Rochelle. And I stopped it, and it was in conjunction with a tavern, this restaurant. And while I was there, a guy came in, and he was a dead ringer for JJ, the colored guy that was on television, big tall guy, and he had a big gun, and on the guard in under the trigger, there was a tag.
He just got it from a store?
And he came in there, and he was robbing the place, and it was late, and the only reason that I was there because you wasn't allowed to go off route to eat, and I peddled freight out of West Chicago and out through Elgin and that way. And I asked them, they said, since we know you don't drink, what I was allowed, and while I was at Rochelle, I'd walk down the alley and eat at this restaurant. And while I was there, see, that's a little town, and a lot of foreigners are in there. They got a canning factory there, you know. And he came in and was robbing the place, and after the dishwasher was sitting at the table with me because he wasn't busy, and he just spread eagle on the floor. He knew what was going on, and the waitress, she had her hands up, and I got up and I said, don't ever wave that gun at me, buddy, unless you're going to use it. And I went right up, and I just finished eating, and I said, if I have it, I would pull the trigger. I said, don't ever point a gun at me. And I was close enough then that I could, and when I looked up, I saw he was wild on drugs.
Oh, really?
And he just kind of put the gun down, and he walked out. And the waitress said, don't go outside, said, he'll be standing out there. Said, he was robbing the place. I said, you're kidding. She said, no. And of course, they wanted me to take a time off and come down the next day. The police wanted me to give them a report, you know. I said, they could come over when I come in tomorrow night. I had to work.
So did they?
Oh, yeah, they came over and done what you're doing, took a deposition from me. I didn't have to go, you know. When I drive from Springfield to Rockford, I'm going to work. I'm going to work every day. If I'm physically able.
So you mentioned you didn't drink. You didn't drink
No.
at all? How did you manage that when you were in the service? Wasn't it hard to... Didn't everybody else drink?
It don't hurt. It takes no more effort to push it away than it does to lift it up.
That's a good saying.
No, I associated with guys that drank, and I quit smoking. And when I quit smoking, I could see what it was doing. And when I got out of the service, Otto Kerner was the governor of Illinois, and he was giving us a little bonus, you know. And I'm smart enough to know that you're just taking it out of one pocket and putting it in the other. You know, that's no bonus. I'm not against people smoking because they're taxing it so much that I don't have to pay those taxes that they're paying.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Have you ever thought of that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I
What
don't
good
smoke.
is smoking?
Yeah.
It sometimes, I suppose, it quiets some people's nerves.
Yeah, I've never smoked, so I
Well,
don't see the
I
attraction.
can tell by your teeth, yeah, but I evaluate people too when I look at them.
Mhm.
Doctor, what's his name? On television, that.
Dr. Oz?
No.
Mhm.
What is?
What's the bald head guy?
Yeah, they got that program, you know.
Is it Oprah Winfrey had him on a long time? He had a show.
Dr.
Is it Phil? Is
Yeah.
it Phil something?
I know
Yeah,
who you're
I
talking
sit there
about.
and watch him, you know, and
I don't think he's a doctor, or is he a psychologist or something?
Psychologist.
But yeah.
Dr. Phil.
Yes,
Yeah,
Dr.
Dr.
Phil.
Phil.
I'm trying to think of a last name.
That's it, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're Dr. Phil and everybody when you're.
I kind of like to make every stroke count.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. Mhm. Yeah, that's a good way to live, for sure. Okay, well, thank you very much for your service to our country. You know, I think being women, well, these days women can serve, but back then when I was growing up, women didn't serve in the military. So I really appreciate what other people do for the country. I want
Well,
to thank you.
you know, that's another thing, you know, I served with colored people and everything, and it didn't bother me a bit, you know. Now, I don't, I was at a base where women were stationed
Oh, really?
and that. And my, as I told you, my cousin was, well, at that time he was a second lieutenant, but he had to go around and make bed check. And he several times said, wanted me to go around with him, you know, because they always had to have somebody with him, you know, for that. And they deserve everything they get if they do their job, and they can. And there's many and many places where they can free somebody else, you know. But I don't think they should be put on the front line, you know, and do
Women?
What?
You don't think women should be put on the front line?
Well, you know, certain things, yes, if they was, but like fighting, you know, and some of the things that a lot of them have to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my phone. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And there's a brochure that they wanted me to give you, and also this pin. I can open this up and figure out how to. Well, maybe I'll just give it to you.
Okay. I'll put that
See
in
if you
your
can put it
grandpa.
on. I can't seem to get that open.
That's to keep me from going through those places for those metal detectors.
Yep.
Well, I think your suspenders did that because you went through it earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just put it on this for you.
You know why the holy way of these, don't you?
Hold your pants up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Her mother's
very
been
smart.
teaching her.